phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
Being the number one player in your recruiting class comes with a lot of pressure and expectations. You are seen as the best player coming out of high school. You are expected to make an immediate impact on your college football team and to be a legendary player in their program and to set waves in college football and to eventually be a star in the NFL. Today's video, I'll be taking a deep dive into the past 10 recruiting classes from 2011 to 2020 and see how the number one recruits have done so far in their careers. Coming out of the 2011 recruiting class, the number one player in the nation that was undisputed on all platforms was Jadeveon Clowney, who was a defensive end committed to South Carolina. In 3 seasons at South Carolina, Jadeveon Clowney was a beast. He had 129 total tackles in his career, 47 tackles being for loss, and 24 sacks, not to mention he had 1 fumble recovery and 9 forced fumbles. Just like in high school, Jadeveon Clowney was seen as the best NFL prospect going into the 2014 NFL Draft. He was drafted by the Houston Texans with the first overall pick in the 2014 NFL Draft. Jadeveon Clowney so far in his 7-year NFL career has made 3 Pro Bowls and he's had a pretty good career so far. He so far has 255 total tackles, 75 tackles for loss, and 32 sacks, not to mention the 9 forced fumbles he has as well. In the 2012 recruiting class, the number one player in the nation was Dorial Green, who was committed to Mizzou, and he was a receiver. Dorial Green Beckham's college football career was pretty good. He really only played 2 seasons of college football though. He played his first 2 seasons at Mizzou, then he got dismissed off the football team, transferred to OU, never played at all at OU because he was not given immediate eligibility. But in his college football career, he had 1,278 receiving yards, averaging about 14.7 yards per catch and 17 touchdowns. Despite not playing a full season of college football, Dorial Green would still be drafted early in the NFL Draft in 2015. He was drafted in the 2nd round, 40th overall pick by the Tennessee Titans. But Dorial Green Beckham's NFL career would not last very long. He was only in the NFL for 2 seasons on 2 different teams, the Titans and the Eagles. For his career, he had 941 receiving yards, averaging almost 14 yards per catch, and a total of 6 touchdowns. A big problem with Dorial Green Beckham in the NFL was that he really struggled to catch footballs. His career catch percentage was only 48%. In the 2013 recruiting class, the number one player in the nation was a defensive end by the name of Nkemdiche, who was committed to Ole Miss. In his 3 years at Ole Miss, Nkemdiche had a pretty good college football career. He had 81 total tackles, 16 tackles for loss, and 6 sacks total in 3 seasons. After a pretty good career at Ole Miss, Nkemdiche would be drafted in the 2016 NFL Draft in the 1st round, 29th overall pick by the Arizona Cardinals. But his NFL career has been pretty disappointing. He struggled with injury issues for most of it, but even when he's been playing, he really hasn't been living up to any of his hype, and he's mainly been a backup for most of his NFL career. He's only played 4 seasons in the NFL and has not played since 2019. So far, he's played for the Cardinals and the Dolphins. In the 4 seasons Nkemdiche has played in the NFL, he racked up 44 total tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. The number one player in the 2014 class was seen as one of the best players to ever play high school football at the running back position, and this was Leonard Fournette, and he was committed to LSU. Leonard Fournette at LSU, he had an amazing career. He's known as one of the best running backs in LSU Tiger history. In his career, he had 3,830 rushing yards, averaging 6.2 yards per carry, and 40 rushing touchdowns. And the thing about Leonard Fournette, he probably could have won a Heisman Trophy in his junior year, his last year of college, if he did not get hurt a little after the halfway point of the season. Leonard Fournette was taken with the 4th overall pick in the 1st round of the 2017 NFL Draft by Jacksonville. Now, Leonard Fournette has had a pretty good NFL career so far. Hasn't made a Pro Bowl or anything like that, but he's had a couple really good seasons. In 2018, he was injured, and he's now having his worst season yet in 2020 with Tampa Bay. But that's mainly because he's sharing the ball in a passing offense with 2 other running backs. Now, so far in Leonard Fournette's NFL career, he has rushed for 2,951 yards, averaging 3.9 yards a carry, and having 22 rushing touchdowns in his career. In the 2015 recruiting class, the number 1 player in the nation was a defensive tackle by the name of Trenton Thompson, who was committed to Georgia. Trenton Thompson had a pretty decent career at Georgia while he was there for 3 seasons. In his freshman season, he only appeared in 8 games and didn't really do a lot, but in his sophomore season, the 2016 college football season, he did a lot and even made it to a national championship game, and he had a breakout season. But in his last season at Georgia in the 2017 college football season, he would decline a little bit in production. In his 3 seasons at Georgia, he had 127 total tackles, 15.5 tackles for loss, and 5.5 sacks. Despite not being projected to go high in the NFL draft in 2018, Trenton Thompson would declare his name for the 2018 NFL draft, where he ended up going undrafted and was shortly picked up by the Cleveland Browns after the draft. Now, with the Cleveland Browns, Trenton Thompson's career in the NFL was not very long at all. He never made it past training camp, as he was released on July 30th, 2018, and he has not appeared in an NFL training camp since. In the 2016 recruiting class, the number 1 player in the nation was defensive tackle Rashan Gary, who was committed to Michigan. In 3 seasons at Michigan, Rashan Gary would have 119 total tackles, 23 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks, and 1 forced fumble in 3 seasons. Rashan Gary was drafted with a 12th overall pick in the 2019 NFL Draft by the Green Bay Packers. So far, he's playing in his 2nd season in the 2020 NFL season, where he's finally starting to get more playing time with the Green Bay Packers. In his rookie season, he was more of a backup depth piece, but now he's starting to start more games. And so far in his NFL career, he has 45 total tackles, 7 for tackles for losses, and 7 sacks. In the 2017 recruiting class, the number 1 player in the nation was committed to UCLA and was a defensive end by the name of Jaelan Phillips. In Jaelan Phillips' 4-year college football career so far, he's currently a redshirt junior at Miami, and he's having a breakout season in the 2020 college football season. But his first 2 years of college, he was at UCLA, and he was struggling with injury issues, and every time he was playing, he was kind of struggling to get going. But so far in his college football career, he started to turn it up this past season in the 2020 college football season. And so far in his career, he has 86 total tackles, 23.5 tackles for loss, and 12.5 sacks. In the 2018 recruiting class, the number 1 player in the nation was a quarterback by the name of Trevor Lawrence, who was committed to Clemson. So far in Trevor Lawrence's college football career, he has been amazing. He is known as one of the best quarterbacks in Clemson football history. He is projected to be the number 1 pick in this upcoming 2020 NFL draft. He's gone to 3 straight playoffs. He's won a national championship, and he's been a Heisman finalist a couple times. Well, he's going to be a Heisman finalist for a 2nd time in this season. It hasn't happened yet, but he's going to be. And so far in his college football career, he's thrown for 9,698 yards, has completed about 67% of his passes, has had 107 total touchdowns, and only 16 interceptions. He's also projected to be the number 1 pick in this upcoming 2020 NFL Draft. In the 2019 recruiting class, Nolan Smith, who was a defensive end, was the number 1 player in his class, and he was committed to Georgia. So far in Nolan Smith's career at Georgia, he has 39 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks. In the 2020 recruiting class, the number 1 player in the nation was a defensive tackle by the name of Bryan Bresee, who was committed to Clemson. So far in the 2020 college football season, Bryan Bresee has played in a backup role kind of for Clemson, but he's played very well as a true freshman on the Power 5 level. He has 18 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. Which of these players surprised you the most in their career so far? And what do you think about the stigma of the number 1 player, and how do you think these players have turned out for the most part? Well guys, now that I'm at the end of the video, remember to smash that like button, turn on them post notifications, and subscribe for more videos. Be Kelly. Out.